welcome to you and to all who are in our audience. Thank you for another opportunity to share some wisdom so that we may move forward on our journey towards independence and towards self-sustainability. And it's indeed another great honor and privilege to share this platform with my co-host Silvina and our special guest, Brother Asari, who, with the interest of time, we're going to just jump straight into discussing the very important issue of building a framework for your business and building a group of people who you can work with to take your ideas and to take your initiatives to where they desire to go. Because most of us, for those of you, let me just go back to this. To those of you who actually have a business idea that you want to develop, just put a one in the chat so we can ascertain who we've actually got in the room. And let me just welcome Brother Asari. Warm welcome, Brother Asari.
Greetings, one and all. Thank you very much, my brother. How
are you today?
Very good. Much cooler.
I know you're glad for the coolness, right? So we're going to be discussing building a group, not just a network, but actually establishing a base of individuals who can help us to move our initiatives forward. And you were going to share, we were discussing yesterday and the day before some of the principles that you use with some of your students. Did you want to start sharing that in the interest of time so we can allow as much time for questions as possible?
Is that me? Sorry.
That is you.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, I thought you said somebody else. Yes, so basically, just a quick outline, we'll have a conversation about it. An outline is that building a business and having more customers or seeking to get more customers. One of the first questions I ask is, do you want to add 10% or 10 times? And I don't mean it literally, but how do you perceive growth? Is it like, I'm doing 50 grand, I want to make 10% more next year? Or do I want to 10 times it? Or are you scared to say 10 times it because you think people will laugh? So if I did 50 grand, I want to do 500,000. I met a sister today who I can't tell you who she is, but anyway, I met a sister today and I asked her, what is her business goal? And she said, £1 billion company. 1 billion. And she wants to do 30 million before she's 30. 30 before 30. So she's not 10% in her business. She's more than 10x in it. She's like mega in it, right? So we're putting a plan together of how we're going to do that. It's a very, very exciting journey to be on with somebody like that. So that's the first question I ask you. Are you just want to put a percentage increase modestly? Now, if you're already doing 1 million and you want to do 10%, would we all agree that's a healthy growth, right? If you're doing a £1 million business and you grow to by 100,000, that could be life-changing extra money. But would you accept if you're doing 10,000 and you put on 10%, £1,000 probably is not going to change your life over a year. So why not go for the figure that you really want, which is what you really want to earn, not what you think you can earn. My job is to help people like you to get to that figure, not for you to say, I just want a goal that I think I can achieve, so I'm only going to go at 5%. It's not even hitting inflation. So go for the ambition of what you want to achieve. That's the first thing. I start with that bit. Where do you want to be? How many customers do you need to hit your revenue target?
Is that based upon, Asari, the type of business that somebody is trying to scale, or does it not matter?
Yes. So to put it in a bit of context, most of us have service-based businesses in this country. I know some people are international, but the so-called modern businesses, a lot of businesses are service-based. So let's talk about those for a minute. Service-based businesses usually can get regular revenue because you're providing a service to people, you can get regular revenue from them. And either you get volume or price. So, for example, for me, I'm not going to have high volume customers. It's not like a sweet shop where you have lots of people coming into the shop and you have small purchases. So the average purchase may be £4, £3, but you get hundreds of them. My customers will be a larger amount and less of them. So you have to see what your service-based business is. But if you have a product-based business, again, is it small sales of £10, £5, £20, very small amount. So you need volume. So either way, you've got to look at how many customers do you need to earn the revenue you want. So if you do sell candles, for example, and you sell them at £10, but it costs you, let's make it simple equation, it costs you £5 to make, and you sell them at £10. Anybody saw Reggae Sauce, the brother who went to Dragon's Den? Anybody saw that actual episode where he was making it in his kitchen, and Peter Jones and Richard Farley said he needs a factory because the volume he was talking about in terms of where he went to go, he got his numbers all over the place. He could never do that in his kitchen, right? If Sainsbury's come in and say they want to order for 45,000 bottles a week, this brother's going to have a lot of bottles in his living room, right?
He's swimming in sauce, right?
Yeah. So you've got to know what size. If you want to sell £500,000 worth of bottles, or let's say £1 million worth of bottles, to make my £500,000 profit, then I know I need to sell a hell of a lot of bottles. So I need to sell 100,000 bottles a year. So let's break that down. How much is that a week? 2,000 bottles a week. So if I was just selling them at Carnival and the odd place here and there, I could never sell 2,000 a week with that method. I now have to scale up and say, am I going to do that through shops? Am I going to wholesale it and distribute it? How am I going to get to 2,000? And that's why the story starts with how much you want to earn, how many customers do you need to earn what you say you want to earn? Then we know what to scale.
Right. So if we're starting with a business and the idea is 1,000 customers a week and the product is food, how would you approach that type of business? Because my view was if you have, say, 100 salespersons and they were selling 10 pies each, or 10 salespersons who were selling 100 products each, then you would achieve your goal of 1,000. What would you recommend?
Absolutely. So it's to look at the resources you got. So as you said, if you've got 10 people who you can commit on a regular basis, now you're going to have differences in abilities, which is fine, because if you do it right, you can learn from each other. Because what you want is feedback. We don't want to go in the blame game to start with. We want to get to the stage where we get feedback. So if you've got 10 brothers and they all have an aim to sell 10 pies a week, and most people are doing that easily, then the target can be pushed up. And then you go for the next level, say 20 pies a week. And then if people start struggling, that's when we need feedback. How did this brother sell 30 and this one only sell 10? But not blaming, just asking questions. Maybe the person that sold 10 said, I didn't have much time this week. I know 2 regular people and I go to them and they buy 10. But whatever the feedback is, you start learning from each other, because who's selling the most, we want to know what methods they're using so we can start to copy some of the techniques that are working the best. Are they going to shops? Are they going to individuals? Are they trying to sell mass? Are they selling individual pieces of pie? How are they doing it? So we can learn. But my suggestion would be, as you said, to scale up by more people selling them and helping and training the people who are selling them, depending on their time, of how they can scale up. How can they actually sell more pies? And we brainstormed some of this before, where we look at who's your target market. This is where we always start. Who's going to buy this from you and why? And then where do we find these people in large numbers? Do you find them in the street? Do you find them in markets? Do you find them in your family? Do you find them in social media? Do you find them in a baker's, a barber shop? Where do you find these people in numbers? Set out a plan of where you can find them and hit those places. So that's the kind of strategy you want to start with.
So with a curveball, I'm going to put a curveball your way. And if I had an ambition, because I've got, if I had an ambition to start a school, for instance, okay, and I see the need for education in our community, then again, you're going to need people If I have a business where I'm a PT, for instance, and I'm trying to go out and to acquire clients, I may be the greatest in whatever area I'm trying to further. So how do I now go out and get clients? Because the only person who knows about my ability is me. Okay, and maybe a few others. So how would you advise anybody in the audience who may be a PT or may have an interest in starting some kind of school, whether it's academic school or just training others to learn what the teacher knows?
Yeah, again, the same thing. You want to get as many people knowing as possible what you're doing. So it's first thing is education. Who knows about you? Who's heard about you? Anything. Forget about whether how good you are at the moment. Just have they even heard about you? So the first thing is who's your target market? Back to that question. Who's your target market? Is it parents? Is it a certain type of parent? Is it a parent in a certain type of location? Do they need to be in South London, North London, London, up north? Is it online? So where are you going to find these and what is their ethnicity? Who's more likely to do it? Is it a woman or a man? Is it the husband or the wife? All these kind of questions you want. Sometimes you don't know all of these answers, but you want to have an idea. If you're setting up a school, it's not the child that's going to pay. It's the parent that's going to pay, and the parent is probably going to show the interest. Okay, you could have pester power. I do accept that. So if you're selling something to children that they could pester their parents about, then you could target children and get them to pester their parent to do it. This is like Argos magazine is a classic example. How many children pick up an Argos magazine and they give it to their parent and say, "Mum, mum, mum, I would like this." Pester power. But generally, target market. Start with a target market and start educating that market. Where would you find them in large numbers? Same with social. Whether you want to use social media, where would you find parents in large numbers? Now, you might look in your local area and see there's lots of parenting groups. So you could target the parenting groups. But are they the parents you're looking for? Say we were looking for black parents. You might say, well, go to the local parents group. It's too broad. They're not specific. So this is a black school. So we don't want to go to a general group. We want to find black group. Is there any black groups in that local area that you could target? So it's always about looking at your target market and saying, how do you reach them? And start putting things into the social media to educate people about what you're doing. But you want to have some mechanism for people to raise their hand. You know, like on Zoom, you have to have a mechanism where somebody can go like this. So you can educate to a certain extent, but you've got to have a call to action at some point. Here's a leaflet on a wonderful school that's starting in South London in September, and we're looking. Here's 7 reasons why your child should be in it, or here's 7 brilliant reasons to join this school, or whatever it is. Get them to download that bit of information. Now you have their details. So they've done that. They've put their hand up. Now you can follow up each of those parents and say, look, Mr. Joe Blogs, I saw you downloaded this bit of information. How did you find the information? And now you have leads. Because one of the mistakes with a lot of social media, it's a lot of posts, but not asking anybody to do anything except like it. Now, if you're setting up a school or you're a personal trainer in South London and I'm in New York and I like your post, it's not really helping. Unless you're online, of course, then you could do it online. But if you're not online, you need local people because they're the only ones going to come to the school. So likes is not enough. You need them to raise their hand to show some interest. So maybe you put on a webinar like this and you say on August the blah, 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 I'm putting on a webinar for parents who are thinking of schooling their children in a different way or might be interested in some of the things we're going to talk about. So again, you get them to register for the webinar. When they register for the webinar, again, you've got their details. Now you can phone them up. So it's marketing has to be a bit of education to let people know you're around, but then at some point you've got to get them to raise their hand.
Fantastic.
It's happening by automatically.
So do you think, what is the importance then of having, if you're trying to build a team, a workforce, how important is it to, or what sort of time period would you suggest to have regular team building meetings and, as you mentioned earlier, team feedback meetings so that best practices can be adopted?
I would say weekly because you can do online. because to meet physically too often can be a strain on everyone. But maybe weekly is possible for a short regular meet, and then maybe a longer conversation once a month. The reason why I say week, because the best salespeople have I know it might sound a little bit American, but have a little bit of rah rah each day. So my son, for example, my son had some really good training. He's 21 now, but he had some really good training from a charity a couple of years ago. They were killing him in terms of the amount of hours he was working, and he wasn't making much return, but the training was excellent because he had never seen that before, where get up in the morning, get up early, meet me outside Waterloo station, 8 o'clock in the morning, pep talk in the office first, then get out to Waterloo station, we show you how to sell, and they literally show him how to sell, words to use, and so on, and get you out there doing it. Very much action orientated. Now that's a bit heavy duty. So to do that every day is a huge commitment. But once a week, to at least review what you're doing, motivate and encourage people to remember why they're doing it, share a bit of best practice, go again, let's come back in a week and let's see how we're getting on. And to build a team is partly to get people, anybody's seen multi-level marketing, there's a lot we can learn from some of the best multi-level marketing companies in the way that they layer and build teams. You know, they're very good at saying, look, you can bring other people in. Now, for example, in the terms of doing the pies, we're not looking at multi-level marketing strategy, but what we can do is encourage other people to say, I met a brother and he said he wanted to earn some extra income. It's an easy conversation to say, well, I'm involved in something at the moment that's earning a little extra income. Would you want to find out a little bit more about it? And then you can bring that person on to maybe have some kind of regular recruitment meetings. These multi-level marketing meetings, they usually have regular sessions booked in advance, say at least once a month. Many of them are every week, but at least once a month, where people who are interested get a little pep talk and a bit of information about how to do it. And then you see if you sign up people. So you could do that with a landing page, again, to get people to sign up if they're interested. So you go beyond just a few people that you know to widen it. And you can always, sift them if you didn't want any old, some crazy person coming along selling your stuff. But you can always vet them and just check people. But you might want a wider sphere of people, so you can go a bit wider to get a bit more interest than just the people that are immediately around you. And you just tell them a little bit about the incentive, that there's a little incentive. This is how we do it, but don't give away too much information.
Right.
You want them to come to something.
Right. So tell me what your thoughts are in regards to natural salespersons versus those who are not natural. And what can you actually do with somebody who lacks the ability to be able to make friends with others, or to just really be convincing about the product that they have? Is one of your main ways of training those concerned to ensure that those who are salespersons actually are masters and know everything about the product? What role does that play, your knowledge of the products?
I think it's pretty important to know the product reasonably well so you can answer questions. But what I would say is, remember, there's many different types of buyers. Now, I'm of the school, give me attitude any day over knowledge. So people who got the big one, we've all met them, right? Especially if we're in the struggle, right? We've all met the people who got all the talk in the world. They're very eloquent. They got the gift of the gab. And when you say to them, right, meet me on Saturday at 9 o'clock, we're going to go and do some leafleting, or we're going to do some postering. Those of us who are old school, let's go and do some postering when it gets dark tonight. Meet me at 9 o'clock outside Brixton Station with a bucket and a brush. And they're giving you all kind of reasons why they ain't coming. So I prefer attitude over knowledge any day, because you can always teach somebody who has the right attitude. They want to do it. They want to learn. They want to sell. And we can see it in people, right? Somebody who's enthusiastic. I don't mean too much enthusiastic. You know, that kind of a stereotypical American. I'm not saying over enthusiastic. It's too much, right? But you've got a little bit of enthusiasm for the product. You don't have to be the best at knowing everything about it. Your just energy alone just makes me feel like I want to buy it from you because you're just so nice and friendly and whatever. The other person who's got too much information, it's like, what are you trying to sell me here? You start to think, are you conning me? You're giving me so much information. Is this actually true? So you saw that balance between different personalities. Some people would just buy, I just help a brother. He's selling a pie. Looks like he's doing it for a good cause. I'm just going to buy one off him. I don't need any explanation. Another person, tell me why I should buy this. And you got to convince them. So there's different types of personalities. But I would always go for attitude over knowledge because you can teach people how to sell. Everybody can sell to someone, even if it's not the type of person that you may be good at selling to. So you might have a great personality, very over extroverted, but not everybody loves extroverted people. What about the quiet people? So somebody's always got somebody in their family, somebody in their community, somebody who they can sell to because their type of personality fits someone. So my high energy, not everybody likes that. Some people think it's too much. That's
So
fine.
do you think everybody should have a sales team?
If possible,
Who's in
yes.
business?
Yes, because the only way to scale, unless you're doing it from the internet, the only way to scale really is by having more people selling it. It's very difficult to scale otherwise. All right, you can get some great salesperson who is killing it 100 a week, but what you would say the average person is not going to be the top salesperson is that's fair, right? Most people are not top level. So to get everybody selling 100 pies a week might be unrealistic because some top people will sell it, but not everybody's going to be at that level. But if you get volume, and you've got 20, 30, 40 people selling it. Now, one person's smashing it with 100, but if on average people are selling at least 50, you're going to still sell a lot of pies. Because it's just unrealistic to expect everybody to be brilliant. And also, not everybody has the time. People got children, they got jobs. They've got genuine reasons why they can't put as much effort into it as maybe another person who can do it all day long. So, yes, if you can build a sales team, try and build a sales team.
So if you had a magic wand and you could choose specific characteristics, what would be the most salient characteristic that you would look for in individuals who may put themselves forward to help you to develop and to help themselves to develop any given product? What's the
Great
most
question. Yeah.
important?
As I said, to me, the top one will be attitude that the person has got that their willingness to learn and they're open-minded. The person who says, look, I've sold ice to Eskimos and I'm the man and blah, blah, blah. I don't know how good they are being able to learn something new. And if they're that good, you should be rich already, if that makes sense. So attitude's the first one. Then the characteristics are they willing to follow systems? And I don't mean something heavy. Are they willing to just are they willing to learn? This is how we suggest you sell it. Would you be willing to learn a little bit about the pie? This is the things that we think help sell the pie. And as long as that person's willing to do that, that's a lot of the percentage of the help already, because that means they're willing to try some basic scripts or some basic things of how you approach people. And also they're willing to listen to where you could go to maybe sell them. But they may have their own ideas. That's fine. But I think the main thing you're looking for, as I said, is the enthusiasm, willing to learn and willing to recognize that there are some things that work better than others. So are you willing to come and share with us every week your feedback of how you're getting on? And are you willing to learn from others who may be more successful? And if that ingredients is there, I reckon you can give them everything else. How to
What,
sell,
mhm.
everything.
What are the areas of investment, Asari? Like, where would a team leader and team members, where would they invest in order to sharpen these skills?
Yeah. So look at there's some people that I would recommend. When I say people that could recommend who are great salespeople. There's some great sales books and videos out there that just give different ways because not every, as I said, everybody's got different personalities. So one person you might say, I'll never say that to somebody. So you're not going to use that script, right? But there's a lot of people out there like Grant Cardone, Alex Hormozy. These are some of the top marketers out there in the world. Well, I say in the world, in the American world, but they've made. When I say who's good at marketing, I'm talking about people who've made millions through using scripts and stuff. So I can't judge somebody how good they are apart from how much sales they've done, is if you get what I mean. So people who sold a lot using these systems, I think these people they've got a system that works. So people like Grant Cardone, these are the kind of people that I read and I watch their videos or listen to their audios, because reading is not as good as audio now. Because if you're listening to the way people speak, it's a bit like Minister Farrakhan. If you only read him, you might not get the essence of what he's saying as well as if you listen, because the way he puts it, you can't imagine it in your head. You have to listen. So now if you're doing sales, definitely audio and videos is great because it shows you the style and the way that they put it across. So dealing with objections and some basic sales techniques, there's some great people that I could recommend that we look at their work and use some of their styles as ways to close and to start conversations. Because most people just don't know where to start, even if they go to a networking. Like if I walk in a shop, what do I say? Because it's kind of like I feel like an idiot. I'm just walking to a shop and I want to sell this pie, but I don't know what to say to the person. And you feel awkward just,
What about you're hungry?
That might not be a bad one. You hungry? With a bit of pie? If you got a taster. But there's definitely well-tested type of language that you can use and customize it obviously to where you're based. So we can listen to the Americans, but we might slightly change it because we know in England there's certain things don't work so much. Anybody got had an email from an Indian salesperson that says Mr. St-Hill? And straight away, nobody in England calls me Mr. St-Hill. That guy don't know me, right? Because nobody uses that in England, Mr. St-Hill. But in some cultures, they use Mr. St-Hill. So as long as you just slightly customize it, we know in the Black community, it's easier, I feel, it's easier for me to sell to Black people because I can connect with them in a few seconds. I can make them laugh, or we can have some kind of connection, and I'm halfway in already. If I walk into, I don't know, a barber shop or a bakery, and it's a Black bakery, I feel I'm halfway in straight. My son, don't quote me, but my son would say, you go to a Turkish shop, and you say, one of my mates is Turkish. If he goes into a Pakistani shop, you say, one of my mates is Pakistani.
Or best friend.
My best friend is Turkish. Whatever works, right? If that's the way you can connect with somebody, you connect, right? If somebody says to you, you know what it's like. Somebody walks into your barber shop or your shop and they go, brother, I've got this proposition for you. And they always start with the word brother because they know they're trying to soften you a bit to say, you got to do a deal with me because you're my brother, right? So whatever works.
So tell me this, in sales, how important is it to have a budget to just give away your product? And for instance, if regardless of what it is, you could be an artist, right? And Picasso may have started out by giving away sketches, right? How important is it to just saturate the market with your product alongside you trying to sell your product? So for instance, if you're a PT, how important is it to have a weekly class, even for free, and just ask people to make a donation? If we've got a product, a food product, how important is it to have samples where you just literally saturate the area that you're trying to dominate? Because again, look, if you're a PT and you have a free class and then people come and enjoy your class and the class is, packed to capacity, and that's obviously got to be better than having a class quarter full where people are paying, right? Because if people are happy with what they're receiving, then they're going to obviously spread the word. And then you can obviously start introducing a fee for your services. So likewise with food or with some kind of beverage, how important is it to have a period or a program just to give away your items or your
I think it's really important, especially when you're new. When you're new to the market, you're going to struggle. You can struggle depending on what your price point is to sell to a market that people have already got the way that they do things, where they buy stuff from. So you're trying to get into a new place. So giving things away for free is a great strategy to build some initial interest. But I just have a caution on it. Be careful how you do it. Now, what I would suggest to people, like if you're a PT or you run a service business, that what you do is you do a deal and you say, look, my brother, if I do coaching for you for free for the next 3 months, if it works, would you be willing to give me a testimonial, a written testimonial, or a testimonial on LinkedIn, somewhere where other people can see it? Because you could give me a piece of paper, but it's not, I can't use a piece of paper. I need you to write it in a social media, like a review or something like that, and do a deal with them where that's the condition, that if I coach you, you're willing to do that. Or you do another condition, not would you be willing, if my service is any good over whatever period you're willing to do it for free, would you be willing to introduce me to 2 other people? So make it a little bit conditional, because I just had a session with a sister with a group, and one of the sisters in there said she was a lawyer, right? And she said when she started out, she used to get so enthusiastic about telling people that she's a lawyer and she how she can help them. They would just ask her loads of questions, and then guess what? At the end, they go, "Thanks very much. That was a great,
Right,
that was
right,
great. You
right,
just gave away
right,
a free
right,
consultancy."
right. So there must be some kind of exchange.
There should be
Even
an
if it's not
exchange. Just
monetary, there
ask them for
must be some
something
kind of
back.
exchange.
Can you give
And
me a testimonial?
and if, for instance, you are unable to successfully even engage in some kind of exchange that might not be monetary, but it could be, some other way of balancing the resource that you are imparting. If somebody who's on your sales team even struggles to do that, then how do you handle that? Like, for instance, you've got a sales team who's successful at selling, then others their job might be just to give away the product and try to find some other way of exchanging the product for something other than money. What then do you do with that person who struggles even in that area?
Well, feedback is so important. Before we judge and say this person's absolutely useless, let's find out what they're doing. So one of the questions is to ask people is to walk me through what you did in the last week, the last month, or whatever. What sort of things have you been doing? Now, quite often, people who are not successful have done very low volume activity. So it's like if you walk into 40 shops and you're the worst conversationist in the world, but you walk into enough shops, you'll probably find somebody you can connect with, and you'll find something to connect with somebody if you do enough volume. But if you walk into 3 shops and you said, I tried 3 shops, none of them were interested, and that's all I did for the week. It's not really giving me anything to evaluate, because it's so low activity that we need to get the person up to some minimum activities before we can even evaluate, are they any good or not? Because they could be just unlucky. Would you accept that? You could go into the first 3 shops and you're just unlucky for whatever reason, that person doesn't take to you and you don't get anywhere. But would you agree if you went to 50 shops or 50 people or 25 people, it'd be hard to believe that all of those 50 people just didn't like you? That's not going to be likely. But there's something you're doing wrong.
Some
So
people are
now we
like
can
that,
start to
though.
dig
Yeah,
into
bro.
it. And that's what you want. You want a little bit of volume. So people
Right,
who are not doing enough volume, the first
right,
thing is to motivate
right,
them to
right,
do more work.
right. So just before I bring in Sylvina, lastly, so by way of, as you just put it, encourage everybody to engage in volume. And after you assess the response to volume, then you really can determine whether this is for you or something else might be for that person. But answer me this, don't you think from the day we have been born that we've all been salesmen or saleswomen in some way, shape, or form? Haven't we always been selling something? Whether
Absolutely. I mean, Grant Cardone makes it quite clear. He said he when he first met his wife, she wasn't that interested, and he said it was his fantastic sales that managed to achieve to win her over in the end. But seriously, everything in life, some people say everything in life is a sale.
right, it's
You
a
know,
transaction. Yeah.
it's a transact. Even if you're political, you're trying to get other people to understand your view. You're trying to get other people to listen or convert to your ideas. This is a sales kind of processes, isn't it? Trying to convince somebody else to follow you, to come with you, to do a deal with you. This is all part of sales. Even if it's your friend and you say, look, the two of us, let's go out and do some pies on Saturday. You have to sell it to them to convince them to come. right? Some people will just say, I'll just support you. You're my mate. I'll just come anyway. But some people will need a little bit more persuasion. So sales is, yes, it's in all of us. And
And does it
therefore you can dig into that.
and does it mean sometimes having to be a good salesman or woman? Does it mean sometimes having more than one product or having
It
some other
helps.
product as a segue to what you really want to sell?
Yes, it certainly helps because if you have multiple products, one person likes one thing, one person doesn't like another. So if the person says no to one product and that's the only product you got, then obviously you're a bit stuck. And as you said, sometimes you have this introductory thing, like with the pies. You slice them, make them smaller. If you could have a taster, some people will do it so small that it's literally on a cocktail stick
Right,
and they literally just have a little taster. But usually you have a little stall when you're doing that
right.
and you just literally give it to people as they're walking past, just a little. Because if you gave us a whole slice to everybody for free, you probably, you might have people queuing up every day looking for that slice. I can just get a
Right,
free slice every day. You don't
right,
want the slice too big, but yes, so you can give people a taster, but not enough to make it so they don't need to buy one. They
right,
just get a free
exactly.
one.
Just
Yeah.
before I bring Sylvina in, lastly, with that in mind, having these segues and having a variety of products for individuals, it's the same when you go on an airplane, right? Like, depending upon what class you're in. But if you're in anything from premium economy up, the waitresses or the hostesses, they will call themselves, will start giving out water and wine and orange juice before the plane has even left the ground, right? But the idea is you're going to fly, okay? So again, I want to get back to this segue. How important is there to have a prerequisite? Because most of the time when you want to achieve something, you usually put a veil over it, right? And you unveil what your true purpose is. It comes out finally, okay? So how important is the camouflage when you're trying to sell something that people are not familiar with? The camouflage aspect.
Yeah, I, it's interesting because I think most people can see what you're doing to some extent, but I think it helps to get leads. As I said, you want to get a market that's warm. The drug dealers are the masters at doing this, isn't it? They give things away free, get people addicted, and then they come and clean up. Now, that's an unethical sales process, but the principle is the same. Get people interested in what you do and then sell them something. So it could be a webinar like this. A webinar can get people very interested in something. And at the end of the webinar, there's a click or a sheet that they fill out or something that they can click on and show that I would like to find out a little bit more about selling pies, or I'd like to know a little bit more about whatever it is. So you've done the webinar, they've showed an interest, now you can follow and do a separate meeting for that group. So there's always these different techniques you can do. As you said, taster session, you do a little PT session at home, a 15-minute bits of exercise, half an hour bit of exercise. I show you what I can do. Another taster session. If you would like a bit more, then again, put your name and I'll follow you up. So I think you always want to have ways of warming people up first. Most people will not buy on the first moment unless it's just a product, a low cost product.
Okay, Savina, thank you, brother.
Thank you. I was listening to what you were saying, Asari, about volume and the fact that, not everyone will be a top salesperson. So in terms of, your overall target, dividing the target, if you like, over a broader workforce. What I was, that's an interesting concept. But what I was thinking is, for argument's sake, so if you have a product and the target is 1,000 units sold per week, and you absorb the fact that, okay, I'm going to broaden my volume of salespersons so that, as you said, if they reach the 50% mark, we can still hopefully achieve that 1,000. But I guess we have to balance our ability to broaden that volume, and it's going to take time to get to the space where we can actually recruit, people to be part of that workforce. So my question was, how with that in mind, not everyone's going to be a top salesman. How would one then establish an ambitious goal, an ambitious minimum goal? Because the maximum goal is 1,000. Okay, but to absorb the fact that not everyone's going to be a top salesman, we don't want to now say, okay, then, we'll just half it and say the goal is now 500. How would we then establish an ambitious minimum, bearing in mind all the things that you said? Yeah.
Well, one of the things with motivating salespeople or motivating people to follow anything is what's your vision. So if you can get people with the right attitude, they'll follow a vision. Like if your vision is because we want to start a business, we want to be self-sufficient as a Black community, you sell them a bit of a vision. What's in it for me? Yes, but what's the wider thing that we're trying to achieve? So people can buy into that. A lot of people are motivated by self-interest. That's true, but they're also motivated by the wider point of what is it you're doing. So if you get people who work for a company and they have no interest in the company whatsoever, how motivated are they in the morning to go and sell? If there's no extra money in it for me, I don't even really like the company, there's not going to be that level of enthusiasm. But if you believe in the product, like it's healthy, it's helping our community, you've got some vision of why you're trying to do it, it's easier to motivate people to a higher goal. So you don't want to drop the goal, you keep the goal high. But what you can say is the individual goal at the moment, it's that idea of how do you eat an elephant? One piece at a time, How do you make a walk for 1,000 miles? We're just going to walk 1 mile today. If you told people we've got to work 1,000 miles, they just won't bother to start. But at the beginning, if you say, I just want you to sell 10 pies this week, just 10 or 5 even, just this week, just to see if they can get going and they can just have a little bit of momentum. And then you can start pushing it as you go. If you wanted to be a runner, you wouldn't say to somebody, right, I want you to run 26 miles this Saturday, and you just kill them. But you could say, how far can you run now? Let's try it. Come and run with me. Let's just do half a mile. Let's just walk half a mile. Let's see how we get on. And then just keep pushing it. So I think you start small and just give people goals. As they get more confident, they feel they can go for the next level. Most people will feel confident when you praise them. Praise is the best way to motivate.
Even a big man.
Even a big man. Telling somebody they're whatless, it doesn't really motivate them. Anybody tried this at home with their loved one? You tell them that they're an absolute waste of space. It doesn't really make them think, you know what, from tomorrow I'm going to be a better person. It doesn't.
That should be the way, though, shouldn't it?
You got to motivate people by telling them what they did well and encourage them to keep doing the thing that they did well. We call it feed forward rather than feedback.
Feed forward.
Feed forward. Tell them what they could do. Don't keep telling them what they didn't do. Who's in a relationship with somebody that you've been in with them 10 years, they're still bringing it up. What happened 10 years ago? They're feeding back. They're not feeding forward.
Yeah.
They need to encourage you to do what they want you to do, not keep telling you that you didn't do it 10 years ago. It's just annoying you.
Yeah. So, sorry, after you finish, Sylvina, we're going to go to questions in the audience.
Thank you. And one other thing, a comment in terms of what you said about the taster and you made the parallel between, I don't know, street entrepreneurs and how they do, and I'm very fond of El Chapo. Okay, I'm an El Chapo enthusiast in terms of that whole empire.
I knew you was. I knew
right?
you. What did they call that girl? There's a girl from Colombia. What's her name? I knew you loved a bit of El Chapo. But anyway.
So I just wanted to, to concur, because that's how it's done, right? It's the model, you give a taster. It feeds into what you said, Abdul Hakim, about, making the pie, rephrasing, making the product so irresistible that people want more, but in giving that option, as you said, Asari, to taste as a hook, which is why I'm sure you could agree with this, Asari, in terms of refining the product and making sure it is an excellent product that people actually want, feeds into. You don't want to give tasters of substandard or, you know, inconsistent. That's my next question, inconsistent products. On that journey towards, because I think there's a balance to be struck between waiting for perfection and getting started. And we spoke about this on the masterclass, Asari. But when on that journey towards refining that product and, you know, billion-pound custom companies still refine a product, we think it's great and they still refine it greater. So what advice would you give potentially to a startup then in terms of finding that balance between refining your product and really pushing it towards, you know, the space that we're talking about now in terms of getting people to know about you and building up your customer base?
Great question. I have something called the X Factor test.
Okay.
Right. I don't really watch the X Factor. The only bit I like about the X Factor is when we laugh on people at the beginning. I don't know why it makes me laugh. You know, when somebody goes on stage and everybody booed them and they go, but my mom told me I was a good singer. Right. Now, the X Factor test is, apart from your mom, who else has told you that this pie is any good or this product that you're selling is any good? And the only way to do it is to just get into the marketplace and start selling it. Now, people worry and they say, yeah, but sorry, what if we get bad feedback? Now, this is where the hard stuff comes. I remember a sister that I was in Brixton doing a session with a sister, and I didn't put it very tactfully, and I could see her energy drain from her when I said to her, apart from your mum, who else cares? Right? And the reason why I say this is...
The advice you're giving us is based upon experience.
Good experience. So I wouldn't say to somebody, don't worry about getting it wrong because you're not well enough known that the mistake will cost you.
Right.
Right? If you're not that well known, a few people said it's not perfect, blah, blah, blah. That's just feedback that's useful. You're not selling, you're not Coca-Cola or Apple where you've got a brand problem and you've got to you've got to, what they call it, where they take the brand back and they have to fix it, a recall. You're not at that level. So if you offer your product or service to some local people, friends, family, and you don't get the best feedback, it's easy to change it, but how much loss have you really made? You haven't really damaged your future by giving it to a few trusted people who are around you. So I say I could kill anybody on sales by getting on the street and trying to sell rather than the person in the kitchen or in the living room spending the next 5 years perfecting a product. We have somebody I know who's been saying they're doing some software and it's become a bit of a running joke because I think it's more than 10 years. And everybody's saying by the time you come up with the idea for the software, we've already moved to another generation of software because how long are you going to take to develop this thing, you know? You know, we're at AI now and then we're going to be at another level. So I don't think you want to take too long, unless it's something that you need to test for food, at least test it so it's not, you know, it's safe. That's obviously we passed that bit. Yeah. But apart from the safety bit, just get out selling it. Don't try and perfect something because when you make it perfect, guess what? What if you make it perfect and the people that been buying it say you changed it?
Right. And I think we were discussing that recently where you mentioned a couple of days ago when we were speaking in regards to that business that the Asian person had, where they mentioned, what did you say? That it was something imperfect chef where the food wasn't 100% right. No, it wasn't yourself. It was Sister Denise, where we were speaking to a food scientist, and the company had sent out a batch of products and it wasn't up to scratch, and they recalled it and rebranded the company, calling the company Chef's Mistake. And they sold more products under Chef's Mistake.
Wow.
Than when the chef was on point, showing how much they thought about things when they recalled. Even though the product was popular, the product might have not been up to scratch with certain other things, but the people loved the product. So they rebranded the product Chef's Mistake.
Classic. How many times have we bought from an outlet store? You know, they call them the outlet stores where there's slightly, there might be slightly something wrong with them. but they're still selling. And most people don't
Oh
are not
yeah.
that deep that they
Right.
that care about that little small things about it because they're getting it cheaper.
But just for clarity, our products are 100%. Very good. So just to allow the audience to share a few words, if there are any specific questions from anybody who is trying to run a team or is trying to build a team, are there any specific questions you would like to ask? Please raise your virtual hand and we'll recognize you. And whilst we're waiting for that, Asari, we had a brother and sister in the audience. They were putting on an event this week. I believe it is on parenting and how to help parents better manage their families and be more successful in the field of parenting. So, Debbie Field Pellows, please explain to us as we're preparing for those who may have had questions, what you're actually planning on putting on and what you're planning on sharing with the community. You're on mute. Can we allow them to come off mute, please? Go ahead.
Thank you, and thank you for the invitation, Minister Abdul Hakim. Thank you so much, and peace and blessings to everybody in the room. We appreciate being invited here. Well, my name is Debbie, and this is Dwayne. We're a husband and wife kind of duo, and we manage
Excellent.
a platform called Black British Parent, and we have an upcoming conference, a parenthood and wellbeing conference on the 12th of July at Lambeth Town Hall from 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. And yeah, basically, we have a list of speakers coming to share their expertise. We have a grief expert, Fiona Reynolds, who talks about, the experience with grief, loss, and bereavement, which I think is super important. Last year we had our first conference, and this is our second conference. We had a much smaller conference last year in November, and we're doing this one again this year because we've been asked to repeat the experience. And Fiona last year was explaining about grief and loss and how it's not only when a loved one has passed away, it can be when you've, changed jobs or moved to a different location. And it had what she had to share was such a profound impact that we definitely want to do it again.
I met your husband in the week, and I was sharing with him my views on parenting.
Yes, you told me.
One of the ladies in the environment, she said, "You should let Hakeem come and speak." And I think she said to brother, I hope you're not scared because I wasn't taking any prisoners.
He said.
Yeah, I wasn't taking any prisoners. Sorry, because when you have a conversation about parents in our community, I had to make it clear most of us are not parents. We're sperm and egg donors. That's what we are, So if you're going,
your sound's gone, Abdul Hakim.
Like it's muted it, isn't it?
Yeah, I can't hear your sound.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can now.
Yeah. You have to let people know for a surety in the first instance, that they're not parents as yet.
Yeah.
Because to be a parent is a very big job. Can you hear me?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Just headphones. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we could hear you before as well. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'm looking forward to the conference that will take place. And we would love to support you in what you're doing. Can everybody hear me clearly?
Yes, we can. We appreciate that. I mean, what we're trying to create is a more supportive sort of space for families because, every family and every parent has had their challenges, and we have a lot of things like intergenerational trauma that has an impact on how we're parenting our children today. And there's a lot more, how can I say, a lot more influence giving, for example, on social media, the kinds of things that are out there that's influencing our children, as well as, their peer groups and the things that they learn in school establishment. So we're just really trying to create the space that we've been able to basically recreate the village, take back the village and recreate the
Yeah,
village for us in our communities.
right. And Asari, these are very honorable goals and honorable objectives that are in need of tremendous funding in order for them to reach the goal that has been set. Because, parenting is, as you mentioned, it's not a short term process. It really is something you start and never stop doing until somebody closes their eyes, right? So,
Mm.
so be that as it may, and because there are so many accidental, if you will, lives being brought on the planet, then a lot of support is needed. And one of the things that I think we need to speak about in all of these areas, so hence building a team, as we've been discussing this evening, and the importance of it, we've got to look at who has successfully come up out of colonization and broken the chains of colonization. Because why it's so difficult nowadays to have a conversation with people to mention, as Black people, we're still going through trauma. This is what happened to us. That is what happened to us. Everybody now has a story. Even the Romanians would tell you how they went through a form of bondage. And you know what the British also in India, what they done there. They killed millions under Winston Churchill. Obviously, nothing doesn't compare exactly to what we have suffered as a people. However, I think we have to start looking at those those pardon me, those who have successfully overcome the trauma of their suffering. And I think sometimes we focus too much on the trauma as opposed to focusing on the solutions to our problems. I was having a conversation with one of my beautiful sisters today, and I was sharing with her that many of us claim to have information and actually know the truth. And I humbly submitted to her that if you cannot produce a product, if you cannot build something based upon what you know, then your lack of ability to build something really is the greatest sign that you actually don't know what you think you know. So similarly, if we are saying we are parents, then we have to produce a product. And if we cannot produce a product, then how effective was our effort in trying to quote unquote parent? So again, with trying to survive and trying to not just survive, but actually thrive and go beyond where we have been left, I think it's important for us to teach our children and learn ourselves some of these life principles that we try to spend time doing on a weekly basis here at the Spiritual Injection. So we definitely encourage what you're doing, and any support that we can give you, we are here to support you. And again, I think if you also contact Brother Asari, he could come and he could share some very important information to those who would be in the audience, to give them some information on how to help their family unit and also strengthen their children. Okay.
100%.
You're on mute.
That's I was just saying that's amazing. Thank you. I find that the misconception with these types of events is that only people that have issues would come to our events. And as you said, parent is a long life journey, and we're just trying to give people tools to navigate that experience as best as possible for themselves and their children.
It's very honorable what you're doing. And as a result of you spending your time and your money to try and help others, we are deeply humbled by that. and we appreciate you. And that's why we will support you in any way, shape, or form in which we can, because what you're doing with the life God has given you is very, very noble. Very noble, very noble. We ran a school for 18 years in the worst part of Brixton at the time, which was Angeltown Estate. Now you can't buy it. You can't buy anything in Brixton. Back in those days, nobody wanted to be on Angeltown Estate. And that's where we decided to set up our school. And it's so beautiful when you bring something into existence, because we decided to name our school what we believed our children needed most of all, which was a new mind. So we called our school New Mind Preparatory. And our children have gone on for all attended that school to attain great things. And we had schools in North London and also in West London, Star Chamber, and other schools. I can't remember the name of the one in East London. But we did this because we wanted our children to have a better start. And when you're focused on ensuring that your children have a better start, it does something for you as a parent. It matures you, because you are taking the future of your children and the future of your people into your own hands. And that's something we don't do on a regular and frequent basis. So to attempt to help to make the future of us as a people much more enjoyable and productive, then this is a great thing, and we applaud you. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So Spiritual Injection audience, give them both a big round of applause for their efforts, and let's thank them for what they're doing in our community.
Well done. Good luck.
Thank you. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you. Family, well done.
So, so Asari, would you like to give us some closing remarks just before we conclude proceedings this evening?
Yeah, and thanks for that, by the way, because one of the things that's interesting is the critique of, particularly us in the diaspora, is the first element of an economic unit is husband and wife. And there's some data that shows, for example, the highest performing economic unit in the United States and in England is the Indian community and the Chinese community, followed by Europeans, followed by a number of different people. And then we're not the lowest, but we're not so high. And there's almost a direct correlation between marriage rates and economic rates. So it's just an interesting perspective. So in terms of economics, that's one of the key aspects, the foundations of our community is it's so much easier if you've got two incomes. I mean, it's not even that deep maths, is it? Two incomes are better than one. And if two people are together in a committed relationship, then it makes a big difference in terms of that basic economic unit and the stability for children. But what we were talking about tonight is scaling, trying to scale if you want to build a customer base. And to build a customer base, I talked about starting from the beginning of how big do you want to be? Do you want to just 10% or do you want to 10 times? So it's about saying what the scale of your business you want to do. Like I made a decision, I want to double my business this year, for example. I just want to double it. And what's interesting is the effort to double it is not necessarily more effort than to do 10% more. It's not necessarily you have to do more work. It's about being smart. And then we talked about scaling. We talked about bringing on people who can have salespeople, how you can train them. And I talked about attitude. To me, is more important than skill, because skill can be taught. Attitude, very difficult to train somebody with the right attitude if they don't have it. If somebody's not going to meet me in the morning and come and go on a walk, my son does this. He brings on his friends, sometimes some of his friends, and they can't cope. After a week, after a month or so, they just don't want to do it because they're not motivated to get up every day and go where they're not going to earn an income unless they sell. And then we talked about looking at target market and where's your target market. So you go where the people are the highest in numbers. And it's just mathematical, isn't it? It's easier to go for a target market where they are in large numbers than just going randomly saying, I'm trying to get anybody. And if you're doing social media, you need to have a call to action so you can get them to raise their hand, right? It's called raise your hand marketing. You've got to get them to raise their hand so they just show interest. So you can scale your business by reaching a wider market than just your friends and family by using social media to reach out to a wider group. And even an event like the brother and the sister talked about an event like that. Landing pages still can be a great way of getting people to register for the event, get people's interested for the event, getting their numbers so you can contact them and follow them up. So it's just a few of those things we talked about today, that if you want to scale and grow your business, there are many proven methods. Somebody mentioned in the chat, by the way, I just finished with that, about closes. There's a book by Grant Cardone. I recommend the audio book because you get the way he says it, and he's got 100 closes in there. He's got 5 closes for somebody who says, I need to speak to God before I can make a decision to buy. He's got 5 closes for, I need to speak to my wife before I'm gonna decide. He literally has multiple closes for all the basic excuses people, I got to think about it, it's too expensive, I need to speak to God, I need to speak to my wife, I need to speak to my husband. He's got dealing with objection handling and how you can handle that. So there's loads of proven techniques by great people who can show you how to close sales.
Do you enjoy our content? Well, make sure to like, subscribe, and click that notification bell so you won't miss an episode.